Ooh, it's a big week. I know we're recording today is the 30th, but probably gonna wait until Sunday to post this. So for everybody watching, Happy New Year's. Welcome to 2021. Thank you guys for tuning back into us to start your year. It's your boy G on Alec Foster from episode 1600. We're here to talk all NFL things and all of that. Before we do so, make sure you guys subscribe to our show here on YouTube. Follow us on IG at section.300 and follow us on Twitter at section300pod. Love to chat with y'all about all the stuff we discuss on the show here. So we are back today to start the year off with more of the drama of the NFL season that's going on so far. And it's been a fun one that's going to culminate this week with a whole bunch of games that mean a whole lot for a few teams. So, win and get in or lose and be on the couch just begging for somebody else to do the same. So, I'm a big Ravens fan. We've talked about it before, and we have a tough week ahead of us. Just in regards to the Bengals who we play should be a dub for us. But in the situation that we don't, we need a couple other teams, as I mentioned, to lose as well to make sure we stay in contention. So the Ravens are as we mentioned, there are a few teams in the same boat as the Ravens, just hoping for things to fall their way so they can get into the playoffs this year. Even though it's expanded, it's still a tight race to get these last few spots. I think the Chiefs are the only ones with a secure spot right now. Is that what I heard? Or I think
only one?
I think there's only there's literally only like 3 or 4 teams maybe that have secure spot.
Like a secure seed.
A secure seed.
Yeah, because they're locked in the number.
A secure seed. There's a few teams that are for sure in the playoffs, but where they may fall is still up for grabs. So, it's definitely going to be a fun Sunday that you definitely want to be tuned in for. So, we have our must-watch games of the week. Alec, where do you want to start with all of that?
Absolutely. We'll start with the AFC East matchup between the Dolphins and the Bills. The Dolphins are at 10-5, one of those 10-5 teams fighting for a playoff spot. And the Bills are at 12-3. They've got their first divisional championship since 1995, so 25-year drought. So hats off to them. I have on here, is Josh Allen that nigga? I don't know, man. He's been performing. There's been so many weeks where I'm not sold that he's the real deal yet, but he's continuously doing so. They would have had 9 straight wins. Not been for that Hail Mary that the Cardinals.
They turned it on and they've really been rolling. So I'm with you. Him and Stephon have been a crazy 1-2 punch. They really got things rolling. So definitely impressive. Definitely want to salute them, and I think they're gonna have a big win. I guess just to make a quick prediction, I think they're gonna win this week. But I wanted to also transition to the Dolphins who they're playing, and that it's a weird situation they have going on. Weird because it's something we don't usually see. And that they have a kind of starter and closer situation, kind of like we see in baseball.
Oh, true,
Brian just starting 2-1 and letting him go out the game. But just in case he doesn't throw a perfect game, perfect magic in there to be the closer, and he did that last week. How do you feel about that situation? And do you think we see more of that going into this weekend, the playoffs, if they get there?
Mm-hmm. Actually, I didn't get to catch the Dolphins Raiders game, but did Tua get hurt at all as to why they subbed him?
I don't believe so. The offense just wasn't getting any real traction. I think he had 16 completions, but it was for 95 yards. He wasn't going anywhere with the offense, and they were close enough to still be in contention, but it didn't seem like he was going to get them over the hump. But Magic came in and did just that for him. So he did as the closer. So
it's an interesting setup. I mean, we talked about it. I felt bad when Fitzmagic kind of got benched for Tua midseason when they were off to a good start already. It's an interesting dynamic they got here. It seems like they want Tua to be the quarterback of the future, but still kind of handicapping him, I guess, a little bit. I don't know how I feel about that. I know that they've overperformed expectations this season. Props to them, and their defense has been really solid, which has kept them a potential playoff contender. I think I actually am going to go with the Dolphins in this one, just because the Bills have the seed locked up in that division, the number 1 seed in that division. So I think they'll probably play their starters maybe for the first half or so, but I don't think they're going to be dead set on winning this game. I think they want to get through it healthy is the main priority.
Definitely
the Dolphins in this one.
definitely want to stay healthy, but I think also want to maintain that energy that they've had over these last 9 weeks, as you mentioned. Right. At least for the first half, they'll play just to make sure that they're on the same page still. So I think they may get up in that first half, and that'll do it for them. We'll see. But as we saw, when Fitzmagic comes in and can close the games out, who knows? But back to the Miami situation, I actually like how Brian Flores has handled them. You have a guy at the bat and Fitzmagic, who we mentioned, wants to really get out there and play still, was mad that Tua came in and kind of took his spot in the middle of the season, but still shows that he has that magic left in him in certain instances. And then you have Tua, who is the young hotshot that seems to be the guy for the future, but it's still going through growing pains. And if it was a team that was not in playoff contention and wasn't a team like the Dolphins, who haven't been in that spot in a long time,
he probably just let Tua
ride. But when you're in a spot, and you're a guy like Brian Flores trying to really still solidify yourself, and you want to get wins on your resume.
That's true. Yeah.
If Tua isn't the guy that's going to win the game for you, the only guy that will. I know everybody wants to talk about focusing on one guy and making sure Tua is the guy, and when he's your guy, you commit to him and ride it out for the whole season. But at the same time, on the flip side, it's not the Miami Tua team. It's the Miami Dolphins. There's a whole team beyond just Tua there, and they want to win games. And Brian Flores thought that Fitzpatrick was the best guy to do so. I think he made the right call and should continue to do so if he sees fit going forward. So I like the call. It worked out for him last week. Obviously, it was a different situation because the Raiders are not the Bills. We thought they could be, but they obviously are not. But I do like the idea of using both. And when you have a young developing quarterback, having a closer in there just in case things are working out throughout the game for him. So I'm applying Brian Flores. And a lot of people are saying, "What are you doing?" And you're ruining Tua's motivation, and you're breaking his trust and all of that. Brian Flores is trying to win games, and he did to win the game and to continue to do so. So I'm rolling with them, and I like what he did.
That's a good point. I didn't think about it like that. It's a interesting spot that they're in, because they're not like tanking this year. They're not taking a rebuild. Like, they've built something, and they're on the cusp of making the playoffs. So they are still trying to win while also moving towards the young guys. So I think you made a good point there that they're handling it as best as he can, seeking to still win games. So yeah.
And it's like people are mad, but it's like, how are you mad when he's winning games? I get you're saying he's breaking trust, but breaking trust with one guy, but having the win at the end, which is which as a team you all care about most. It's like, hey, if you got to break a little bit of trust to get a dub, then it is what it is, I guess. So yeah, like I said, I'm with Brian, Coach Flores in that. So definitely salute to him for taking that chance. What other games you have this week?
Yeah, next up we got the Steelers, who have been a controversial team on this podcast for sure all NFL season. The Steelers are 12-3. They have the AFC North, I believe that is, locked up, and they're playing a divisional opponent in the Browns, who last week lost to the Jets, which kind of threw a wrench into their playoff picture. The Browns are 10-5 as well, one of those other 10-5 teams.
Yep.
And they're favored heavily at -10 this week, and largely due to the fact that the Steelers have the number 1 seed locked up and aren't going to be starting guys like Big Ben and James Conner or whatever. So
even not having any of your starters playing, should they be favored that high after what they just did to the Jets, losing to the Jets?
I don't think they should be favored that high. I think they should be favored to win this game. They're still the Browns, so there's a potential for the Browns to be the Browns once again.
That's my point. You just saw. I think they had an even bigger spread against the Jets last week, and they clearly blew that. So I think giving them that big of an advantage is the wrong move with how they've come so far.
Right. Yeah, I understand that it's Big Ben isn't playing, so like I get that. I don't even know who their backup is.
I was going to bring it up later. It's funny because, of course, this week we now get the reunion of Myles Garrett versus Mason Rudolph.
Oh, is Mason Rudolph starting?
Mason Rudolph is starting this week. So yeah, we'll see if they this week. That's definitely going to be fun to watch. So
man, I hope he smacks the hell out of Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, exactly. So to the game, the Steelers. While I haven't been allowed to say it, but they've turned fraudulent in the last few weeks. They've done what I needed them to do last week. They beat the Colts. They came back on them and helped and got that victory for them. Appreciate that. Now I need to come back again and do the same thing. So I'm not, again, with the Steelers versus the Browns, as a Ravens fan, I'm not supposed to root for either of them. But for playoff reasons, I'm going to go with the Steelers, which is, I know is against our religion, but I've already worn masks and all of that, so we know it is at this point. But I'm going with the Steelers. Hopefully that they win this game so the Browns fall down a little bit so the Ravens can get into the playoffs. So I guess I'm rolling with Mason. It's going to be a tough watch, but I need the Browns to lose so that the Ravens can have our spot.
When you really break it down, that whole division is kind of fraudulent between the Browns, Steelers, Ravens. Had those fraudulent moments for sure. Like we just talked about the Browns lose to the Jets when they needed a win. And Ravens had their early struggles. Steelers started off hot, but once they hit some better teams.
Remember what I was saying about Baker after the Ravens game, how everybody was like gassing him up and all of that? It turned so quick again once he loses to the Jets.
I didn't actually see that Jets game, so I don't know if he played. I know they actually had all their wide receivers were out. I forgot about that.
So
Landry and People Jones.
I don't want to put shit on because didn't have really any help on the outside. But at the same time, it was just funny, just saying that the media reaction to him. My criticism, I understand what was going on. I think some people are like, oh, Baker isn't actually who you guys said he was and all this. People keep turning back and forth on Baker real quick, week by week. 1 week he's the leader and the future of the Browns. The next week he's get traded because he lost to the Jets. It's just like what are we doing? So it's funny there. But
I think my assessment is he's a solid quarterback, 7 out of 10. He's not gonna lead you to the promised land, but he's serviceable if you have the right piece around him. They have Chubb and Hunt.
Yeah,
a great run.
In Cleveland, you haven't had a 7 out of 10 in a long time. So you take it and just figure it out. So we shall see. But to that point of figuring it out, hopefully they don't this weekend and lose to the Steelers, so that my guys can get in. As I said, did you say who you have in that game?
I didn't, and I think I'm gonna go with the Browns in that game because Mason Rudolph is taking the reins over.
They should win. The Browns should win.
Yeah.
But again, as I said, Ravens, we want to get in, so I'm rolling with the Steelers.
We haven't really talked about. I forget their names, but they had a couple of guys that went out to injury on the defensive end for the Steelers that has affected them a little bit because that defense.
But Dupree and others have been out.
Right.
And then we mentioned on the offensive side, they've had a little bit of a bad juju with that offense, with Juju himself and other receivers dropping the ball and the lack of a run game and all of that. So they've been trying to figure things out, but got things clicking last week, and hopefully it continues at least a little bit, at least just this next game.
Yeah. The logo dancing has ceased at this point. I know they were dancing in the locker room after they won.
Not on the logo no more, but in the locker room with the whole squad now doing it. How do you feel about people saying that was the reason why they were starting to lose games? I
for sure don't think him dancing on the logos was the reason for them losing games, but I do think it's like we talked about. It's whiteboard material for locker room material for other opposing teams. It clearly motivated guys to want to beat them. Between his logo dancing and some of the off the field social media posts that other Steelers were making, I think they just fueled the fire for other teams to want to beat them. So I don't blame Juju for them losing, but it definitely, like I said, fueled their opponents to want to beat them even more. And I think it's never a good idea to make yourself a target unnecessarily. So you don't need that pressure when teams are already trying to beat you because you were undefeated. So
I'm not an NFL player. You're not an NFL player. So maybe it wasn't. But just from hearing people, I was confused from the ESPN, Fox, and whoever, the big time former NFL athletes turned analysts who kept downplaying Juju and his dancing and things, saying that didn't mean anything and that was just media stuff and we're gassing it too much. I think
it definitely meant something.
It definitely meant something. We saw a bunch of teams mentioning it. We saw a team celebrating when Juju would get hit and things. It definitely had a little bit more energy. And for guys, but I've also heard a lot how we see that the NFL becomes a business. And once guys get to the league, it's more about securing that check than it's getting the wins. While of course guys want to win and they have goals they're striving for on the field, it's also about that paper at the end of the day for a lot of guys. So once you give guys more motivation back on the field to really go out and perform and add that field fire, that whiteboard stuff, it definitely plays some kind of a part. Obviously, there's more to it, but it is a big thing when you have a team, when you have guys, when you see guys on the opposite teams going dancing on your logo. It's like that does mean something. So I was confused as to why so many people were completely downplaying it. It did have at least some somewhat of impact into the games that we saw. And then we also aren't performing on top of it. It doesn't really help your cause either. So I'm not completely shit on people saying on the notion that it meant nothing. I think it actually did, and when we saw it take place the last few weeks, so we'll see if they turn things around and continue back on track as they figured out last week. So like I said, I'm going with the Browns for Ravens reasons, but I'm going with the Steelers for Ravens reasons. But the Browns, we'll see if they get the dub this week. So it should be a real good one.
Yeah, the flip on Juju, I mean, he did it to himself. Like, he was one of the more liked players in the league after his first couple seasons, and he was supposed to be the good guy, but in the Juju versus Antonio Brown kind of dispute as well, too. And now with his dancing antics, he's getting a lot of hate from NFL fans of all other NFL teams other than the Steelers. So when you're not producing, it's not a great idea to draw attention to yourself like that, I feel also. Because then you put that target on your back. And guys like the Bengals dude who said you got to hit him in between the lines. Yeah. They went ahead and did that.
Another thing too, as I mentioned before, Juju, I saluted him for what he was doing and talking about how he's making himself a name and how you have to separate yourself from guys and make yourself more notable. And while that is something to be applauded, at the same time, in the NBA, it's a very player-based league, and you can root for guys on separate squads and all of that. And the NFL, fans are very loyal to their squad. If you're a Ravens fan, you're a Ravens fan, and that's that. If you're a Cowboys fan, you ride with the Cowboys until the wheels fall off. And as we've seen, when the wheels fall off, you still stick with them. But when you're now Juju and when you're doing what you're doing on social media and all of that, while it's fine when it's just individually in the locker room and all of that, once it goes to on other teams' logo, now other fan bases are like, hey, we liked you before, but now you're attacking us, and we don't like that. And now it puts a target on you. So once it went to that extreme, that's when things got a little bit too, I won't say out of hand, but it started becoming more motivation for others to turn against them. So we'll see how he handles it going forward. But I'm definitely gonna be watching. What other games do we have this week?
For sure, we got three more here on the list. Next up in the NFC East, two teams still fighting for that NFC.
They should not even be in the race. Why man? This is so dumb.
Do you think the NFL should tweak the rules to?
No. I will say that I think this is just one of them funky years where you have a division where everybody's just trash like that. But I think it should be that way because if that's the case, and then things flip, and all of a sudden these teams are all playing good, but then they miss out still. It'd be more of the same. So I don't think they should change it, but it's just funny to look at for this one season. But with the Cowboys versus the Giants, the Cowboys seemed to turn things around last week. I believe I forgot who they just played. They played somebody and had a nice. I think the Eagles it was had a nice outing. Andy Dalton and those boys on where with the pull up Jalen Hurts in his performance. So Daniel Jones is still trying to work things out. I guess you go with the Cowboys in that, and I guess that somehow gets them a playoff spot all of a sudden, or gets them at least close in with the Washington football team who's trying to compete as well. But for this one game, I'm gonna go with the Cowboys, I guess, and hopefully they don't do what Stephen A. does and mess up as they always do. So we shall see. But
you got faith in Andy Dalton?
No, but I don't have faith in Andy Dalton either. So just gotta take the better weapons out there. I like CD and Amari, and they finally got things going with Michael Gallup, who I would have loved to have earlier in my fantasy team, but whatever. Yeah, he's doing his thing. So
we forgot to mention our fantasy our fantasy L's this year. You made it to the playoffs, I didn't, but neither of us were able to win a championship this year. So
I lost all my running backs, and the trade that killed me was a trade with you. I took Chris Carter for Tyler Lockett, and then right after that, all my other running backs got hurt, and all my receivers stepped up. I have Devontae, I had DeAndre Hopkins, I had Corey Davis, I had T. Higgins. I even picked up Logan Thomas, the receiver from I could use him as a flex guy, but for some reason I'm like, oh, I have all these running backs. I have McCaffrey, Gaskin, Mike Davis.
Lockett juicy.
I had all these guys. I had plenty of running backs, and they all got hurt going into the playoffs, and I had nothing to fall back on. And lack of running back play was why I lost and ended up finishing third in my fantasy league. So just got to be more patient going forward. But yeah, that was my loss. Yeah. But you want to mention yours real quick or anything of note with you?
No, I mean I just missed out on it at we had a segment on it with that what was that, the Ravens Browns game, best game of the season we're calling it. That one knocked me out of the playoffs, so it was a sad ending to the fantasy league this year, but we got fantasy basketball as well, so we can dominate in that one. With this Cowboys and Giants game, that's a tough pick for me. Because those Cowboys, I never trust week in and week out. The Giants' defense is actually quietly pretty good. Right. But as you said, Daniel Jones, I think is still hurt. So I think it's been Colt McCoy playing the last couple games or so.
Something like that. I think he might be back.
But even still, it doesn't really matter between either of those two guys. You're not getting great production out of the quarterback spot for the Giants.
Right.
I think you got to lean Cowboys here, just because of the talent they do have around Dalton between Gallup and CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper and Zeke. If Zeke's not fumbling the ball, I believe he's going to be healthy this week. So I got to lean Cowboys there, I think. Right. And I don't know if they win, if that seals it, or because if they win and the football team wins, they'll be tied record-wise. So I don't know who has the tiebreaker there. But
find it real quick. Washington wins if Washington gets in. If they win, the Cowboys have to win and Washington has to lose.
Okay.
And the Giants win. If the Giants win and Washington loses, then the Giants get in.
Okay.
Yeah, so all three of those, there's all those top three teams can get in. It appears.
Yeah, top three under 500 teams.
Yeah, nasty.
We're both with the Cowboys on that one. And then this next one is the NFC West. We got Cardinals at 8-7 against the Rams at 9-6, fighting for that wild card spot because the Seahawks have it locked up in that division. I think this should be a pretty good game, actually, with playoff implications. Both teams still fighting for that position.
I think both are playing backups. I think that was right. Both teams are playing backups, backup quarterbacks. I think the Rams are playing.
Kyler not playing? I know Jared Goff is out. But
Jared's out. He broke his hand up or broke his thumb or whatever that was, and then Kyler reportedly maybe out as well. So. I don't know if I can pull it up that quick, but yeah, I think they're both playing backup quarterbacks, and it's going to be an interesting one because, as you mentioned, they both really want to win this game. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm going to lean Rams here because I think the Rams defense has been phenomenal this year. Obviously, Aaron Donald, the best player in football. That pass rush, and then you have the secondary with Ramsey and others back there as well too. The Cardinals, after DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler have been kind of like middling, like Christian Kirk had a great stretch of like 3 games and then has been pretty quiet.
Yep.
Larry Fitzgerald hasn't been much of a factor this year. Between Edmonds and Kenyon Drake, they've been serviceable, but nothing special. I think that Rams defense has them pretty clamped this week, regardless if Kyler plays or not.
Yeah.
And then I think the Rams are not a high-power offense, They have pieces that are super talented between Kupp and Woods, and Akers has been breaking out as a solid running back for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's been dicey for them because Goff, you don't know which Goff you're going to get Sunday to Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So I think because of the fact that they've been able to win even when Goff hasn't been the best, I think I'm going to go with the Rams still in that because I think their offense can do enough to win this game between Sean McVay calling the plays. I'm going to go with the Rams in this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. We didn't discuss our pick. We don't discuss our picks prior to, but that was my same reasoning. I think Sean McVay and can figure out things with the offense even without Jared Goff, who even with him, Jared Goff hasn't been the best. So I think you have a guy who may just come in and just do exactly what they want him to do. Won't try to be some kind of won't try to impose his talent or whatever it may be, and just say I'm the backup and just make sure I do exactly what he says to do. Sean McVay calls the plays, he executes, and it can work out enough. Against the Cardinals team, who is kind of in the same boat as them, I mentioned, not having their starting quarterback as well. So the Rams also already beat the Cardinals earlier this year. That was a game where I thought DeAndre would get past Jalen Ramsey and those boys, but he wasn't really able to do so. And I think this is more of the same. The defense is really rolling right now and needs to be in the playoffs. They're a playoff, definitely, and potentially Super Bowl level defense, and need to be in there and on display. So I think they show more of that this weekend and get the job done, as you also mentioned. So, definitely rolling with the Rams on that one.
Yeah, and then this last game we have on our slate is the primetime game, and that's the Washington football team at the Eagles. Eagles are out of the playoffs in that division,
right.
But still, I guess you could say have a dog in the fight because it's still a divisional opponent, and it could influence who makes it and who doesn't if they win this game. So should be a pretty good game. Jalen Hurts has been emerged as a pretty decent quarterback for them. Making the quarterback situation hazy in Philly with Wentz having signed that big contract.
Right.
And then Washington football team we'll discuss with them having just released Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah, I wanted to go there. We kind of see two different routes. We saw two guys that potentially were drafted too early or not where we're expected. Jalen Hurts on one end got drafted early by the Eagles and now is doing his thing there. Dwayne Haskins was drafted by Washington and was supposed to be the guy to take over and was potentially a steal how he fell behind Daniel Jones and others in that draft, but went there and I guess the fame and things or got too comfortable in the situation and now is actually out of a job already just 2 years in. So it would have been great to see these two young black quarterbacks to face off, but Dwayne is no longer there and is now trying to find a spot elsewhere. And I want to stick with him because there's been a lot of conversation just about his handling of the situation. We saw leading up to his release, we saw him in the strip club and all kinds of stuff and very, very just careless. And then you don't have to play the match. It just makes it easier for them to let him go as they did. So, it's a very interesting conversation. People are making it the whole race thing again. The young black athlete, the young black quarterback especially, and wanting guys to see more focused. And we saw guys like Booger McFarland saying that we I forgot exactly what he said, but just saying that black athletes to be more focused essentially, and not focused on social media. But in reality, we see a lot more of that on the opposite side with the Johnny Manziels of the past and the Baker Mayfields now and all the commercials and all of that. But I think, to be honest, while people want to keep comparing it and trying to make it a thing about what this means for other black quarterbacks and what this means for young quarterbacks in the social media era, Dwayne to me seems somewhat of not an anomaly, but it's definitely a kind of individual situation. He's in a rough spot in Washington with a team that didn't really want, with a new coaching staff that didn't really want him to begin with. The team, the guys that drafted him, the Gruden staff didn't seem to really want to work with him either. But he went there because he was one of those guys that you really couldn't pass up based on how he looked coming out of Ohio State, and went to Washington and tried to prove everybody wrong. But when he got there, he still was a guy who only played one full season starting at Ohio State. He beat out Joe Burrow for a year, I believe, and had one great season where he put up like 50 touchdowns and looked like he was the next best thing, and was why he getting drafted where he went to Washington. And then he comes in, and the expectation and the projections were this guy with a lot of potential. He didn't play. He only played one full season. He's still learning the quarterback position and all of that. But you're thrown into a spot that wants you to come and produce immediately. and it's like you're going against projections versus the need to win immediately, and it just created a whole bunch of chaos. It's already chaos just within the organization alone. Just them handling them being called the Washington football team and things just in the building beyond the field, just in the building, just trying to handle
other off the field issues as well too.
Yeah, and just trying to manage all of that. And then you're a young 23-year-old who just got drafted, or 22-year-old who just got drafted, and you want to kind of at least fill yourself a little bit. But the problem is when you're in that situation, you can't really go out and do what you're doing when you're not producing, when your team is struggling as it's been the last couple of years. So, it's just understanding your position, realizing that you're not in a space where you can really mess around. You really got to step up and show you deserve to be there. I forgot what his quote was, but I think he said something along the lines when you got drafted that the league messed up. And like if that's your case, if that's what you're going to come into the league saying, you got to come in from day one and on and beyond and show that. And it seemed like he came in early on and wanted to prove that. And then as the seasons progressed, he got comfortable, at least off the field, and things kind of laxed, and his game got too comfortable as well, while the production wasn't where it needed to be, and things started to roller coaster because of it. So, it's just understanding your position, understanding that this game is not it is very much a privilege. Something that I've heard a lot of people say. You can't take things lightly. And while you have a lot of checks coming in that look real nice, and you want to spend them and go to a strip club and all this, that, and the third, when you're in a situation where you have to come in and produce, you have to say that. And you're in a pandemic too, and you're putting guys at risk. And all that, you realize that sometimes the fun got to go on hold. You guys make sure that you're here to win. And especially with a team that, even through all the chaos that we mentioned, now, as we now see, is turning things around and trying to really make things happen. You have guys that are also on your team. Chase Young, I think you were on that same team in Ohio State with him. And to see, and at least outwardly, not hearing about any real support from other guys in the locker room for him and all of that, it was sad. But definitely still rooting for him individually and hoping that this is the wake-up call he needed to turn his career around, because he definitely is a talent I want to see in the league for many years to come going forward. So, definitely something to keep your eyes on. What do you think about his situation?
Yeah, as you were talking about it, I kind of thought about my boy, Josh Rosen, being in a similar situation. They've handled it differently personally. Like, Josh hasn't really had off-the-field issues at all, but a similar situation to where he was put into a situation where they were asking him to win football games with a team that wasn't really capable of doing so. Exactly. So it was like a losing situation that they were both kind of coming into as rookie quarterbacks. And even more so tough, as you mentioned, for Haskins, because he only played one season, one full season, like at Ohio State as the main guy. And I think that was to his disadvantage, because he still seems quite raw, like in his mechanics as a quarterback. His footwork definitely could use some development as well too, and decision making and whatever else. But I think I definitely wouldn't play like the race card here. I do think that black quarterbacks at times do get shorter leashes.
I didn't want. I want more that definitely is a thing, but here I feel like it's a little bit different. So
I will say that I do think black quarterbacks get shorter leashes sometimes in the media, or especially with NFL fans and how fans talk about them, and are willing to forgive mistakes by other guys who aren't those more athletic dual threat quarterbacks, whatever, like a lot of the black QBs can be. I think it's more of a situation where he needs to develop, and he wasn't in the right situation to do so, and hopefully can find a team that is a good fit for him to maybe be a backup for a year, work on his mechanics, learn from a professional, like how to conduct himself on and off the field. You mentioned as far as like going to the strip club and thing, I think Shannon Sharp had a comment where he talked about him not having built up the cachet to be able to do things like going to the strip club. Like, even like James Harden is getting frowned upon, and he's one of the best players to ever play in the NBA, honestly. and he's getting frowned upon for doing similar stuff off the court. So you know the guy,
and you drop 48 and 12 the next game, it changes the conversation a little bit.
The organization can give you a little bit more leniency if you're.
Go ahead. We understand.
If Haskins was throwing for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns, it would be a little bit more lenient. But when you're not producing, as you said, and still breaking protocol and not giving the focus to your craft that maybe you could be, it's going to be a problem. So I hope that he can find a situation where he can be a backup and learn from a guy.
Yeah, and I hate that it comes to this, but a spot that I think could work really well for him is in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I think if Big Ben feels like he still has a year or two left under him being a backup for Big Ben and learning from Big Ben, while I'm anti, obviously, but still understanding that he is one of the better quarterbacks that has lasted in this league for as long as he has for a reason. You definitely can learn a lot from him and definitely would have time to develop. And as we mentioned, with Mason Rudolph starting this week, you get your shot to get in at times and play without the same pressures that were on you when you were in Washington. So I think Pittsburgh could be a good fit for him if he's given another opportunity. So we shall see, but I'm definitely rooting for him. And hopefully, like I mentioned, this is the wake-up call he needed to really get focused and more dedicated to his craft. So, yeah, still would love to talk to you if you end up seeing this. Usually we don't say that, but definitely saying that. We love to chat with you, bro. And we rooting for you still. Hope for the best. Yeah. Now for the rest of our games, what other games do we have to watch this weekend? Is that it?
Did we make a pick for that game? The Eagles
team? I'm going Washington. I think even with Alex Smith is back or whoever Tyler Heineke or whoever they have. Yeah. I think that defense, as you mentioned, kind of with the Rams game, I think the defense can slow down Jalen Hurts and those guys in Philadelphia, and they can get the job done as they try to make sure they get this playoff spot locked in. So I'm going Washington.
Yeah, I'm with you there, especially if I don't know if Antonio Gibson is healthy or not, but J.D. McKissic has been stepping up too out of the backfield.
The last thing too I wanted to say, when you cut a guy like that, it sends a message to the other guys in the locker room not to play around either. So I think the other guys in the locker room are like, oh, they cut him. If they'll cut him, they'll cut me in a heartbeat too. So let me step up. So I think other guys step up this weekend to make sure they get the job done. So I'm a roll.
I think Ron Rivera is not playing around either too. Like, he's a respected coach in this league.
No, he's not playing.
So it's an understandable move, and hopefully Haskins can find a team where he can thrive, learn from somebody for a year or so, and step into that starting quarterback role with more experience under his belt and more development. Yeah. I think that's it. That's it as far as our games of the week.
Yeah, that's a must watch. I mean, I have my Ravens thing on. I've mentioned a few times. We better win against the Bengals. Don't play around. Lamar, you've been doing your thing. Get the job done. That's all I gotta say. I'm not gonna sweat nothing. I'm just sit back and watch and hope that y'all do what you need to do. So Ravens, make sure we get our job against the Bengals, and we'll keep rolling from there. So definitely looking forward to this weekend. It's gonna be real fun. Again, Happy New Year's to everybody. Hopefully, it's been a rough year for many folks, especially in NFL as well. They just announced earlier today Dalvin Cook is not going to be playing the Sunday because he lost his father just at the age of 46. He lost him. So send our condolences to him and his family. A lot of folks are going through it still. It's been a rough year, and we just trying to fight to the finish. And now as we go into a new year as well, just want to make sure that we hold on to the ones we love the most, because we see how quick things can change for many of us. So definitely hold your heads high and keep fighting in the right direction. So that was the last thing I wanted to mention. Any other positives heading into the new year you wanted to mention? This is our last recording of 2020, but our first of 2021. So any words to end on?
I thought it was well said what you said as far as it being a tough year for everybody, us taking our lumps between the social justice reckoning in America and the pandemic. There's been a lot that's happened this year, and it seems like a whirlwind of things that have gone on, and we're hoping for a much brighter 2021.
Yeah.
But let's seek to enjoy it. Let's, like you said, hold our loved ones close, and just seek to enjoy every moment in this coming year, and not look too forward into the future, and really be present this year in the moment.
Yeah. That's something I really trying to learn this year as well. I've always trying to plan ahead for the show. We had things on the way that we're looking forward to, and all of that. But at the same time, you get to enjoy the moment that you're in, because you don't know what's next. So definitely be present. That's definitely a great thing to end on. So yeah, those are our closing words for 2020, and as we head into 2021. Thank you guys for all the new followers that found us this year. We definitely appreciate all of you.
Absolutely.
New followers, we love to chat with you as well. So as we mentioned before, subscribe to the show here. Follow us online on all the little pages you see at the bottom there.
Keep running those numbers up for us.
Keep running those numbers up for us, and we'd love to talk to y'all. And when things open up, it's going to be real fun for everybody, and we love to see y'all. So that's it for us, and we out of here. We'll be back next week for more NBA, NFL, anything going forward. And appreciate you guys, man. We out of here. Peace.
Deuces.